back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I'm here today to review my favourite book of the year so far, and that is The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. This is the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty series, so I'll put a link to my review of the first one if you want to hear about that, but this will be non-spoiler. And this book, really, it was just exceptional. Like, I don't even have words for how much I fell in love with this. I expected to like it because I read the first one of his books, really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4.5, so it was very close to being awesome for me, and this book was just so much better. I didn't even imagine how much better he could get as a writer. I've also read his short story collection and I absolutely adored that. So I was really hoping for good things, but I still think this blew me away in terms of how good it was and how much I enjoyed it and just how brilliantly well put together it is and how excellently developed it is from book one. How many things come together, move on, expand, develop. It's just so good. And what makes it so good is largely the characters, in my opinion, although pretty much every element I couldn't really fault because I loved it so much. But for me, the characters were a major part of why this is such a good book. And that is because so many of them are female and so many of them are excellently individual characters who feel genuine and real and exciting and individual, and I just love them. Some of my favourites included Thera, who was the favourite character for me. She's probably the character from fantasy that I most relate to, because a lot of people I know say like Hermione Granger or other characters from very well-known series, but I think for me, Thera and I just clicked like instantly. I actually did a buddy read of this with Rhea and James. I'll link their channels below, and we discussed this book in intense detail at some points, and I absolutely loved that because I really felt the need to talk about it with someone because I was enjoying it so much, and I just needed to vent my thoughts and be like, whoa, this thing happened, oh my gosh. So I did that quite a few times, I'm not gonna lie. Thera is my favourite character, I think, because of how intelligent she is. She definitely has like very good intelligence, very sound, very logical, very thought-provoking, and yet she's also very caring, very loyal, very loving, very friendly, very able to think on her own 2 feet and stand up for herself. She's just kind of a bit of everything, and she's exactly what I would aspire to be and exactly how I'd imagine myself to be if I was in a fantasy world. And I think that she's just great and she just comes across incredibly well and incredibly wonderfully throughout the entire book. Even when she's a young, spoiled princess, then I still think she came across very well, and you could see the makings of what she was going to become later on. So I just loved her as a character so much. I just connected on a level that I haven't in a long time with a fantasy character, and I just loved her. So obviously she was going to be my favourite. But there are plenty of other really interesting female characters as well, including Gia, who is a really difficult character. I both love and hate her all at once. She is a character that is so very manipulative and so very conniving, but she does it for incredibly dear, loving reasons, like her children. You can't really fault a mother for going to extreme levels to try and defend her children. And so it's very hard to decide how much I like her and how much I hate her, because it's definitely both. She has really good motivations, but she does things in very conniving, sneaky, plotting ways, and she is not someone you would ever want to cross. She is definitely very mistrustful, very lonely at times, and someone who just doesn't really believe that the world is going to fall into place. She believes that she has to put it in place and she has to take action and charge of the situation, and sometimes that means doing things that are really horrible and other people wouldn't dare to do because it would tarnish their name or it would make them out to be the bad guy. but she is able to do these things and willing to do these things because she will go to any length to defend her family and her honour and her reputation. So she is just such a conundrum and such an interesting character to read about as well. Another character who I really love is Jin. She completely defies tradition by being the leader of the Emperor's armies in this book. Being female and being the leader of the armies is definitely not something that is stereotypical to this world. It is an Eastern-inspired setting, and so we have a lot of deep-rooted culture beliefs, such as women being inferior to men from the Eastern culture. It's definitely there and it's definitely present, but this book does a lot of work to flip the gender stereotype and show that women and men are just as able as one another. And if you've got the right person for the job, it doesn't matter what sex or gender they are. So I love that about this book so much. It was so good at doing that. And I do think that Jin as a character had some exceptional moments where she defended herself and others, and she was incredibly brave and daring, and she was just very stubborn and very wonderful as a leader and a general, and I can't fault her for that. And I think some moments of her story were devastating. Truly. I can't tell you what they are because that would be a spoiler, but like honestly, there were some moments in this book that, man, it was impactful. So I loved her. Another character who was really great was Zomi, and Zomi is a character who gives us quite a lot of backstory because we follow her life from when she was a young child and she was kind of scouted by a scholar to become his pupil, and we follow her life as she grows up and learns some of the ancient logograms and some of the ancient ways and different kinds of technology, different kinds of law and writing and languages and disciplines, and she kind of does a bit of everything. She travels quite a lot with her professor and she learns a lot over the course of her years, and she eventually ends up trying to take the Great Examination, which is a kind of new innovation brought in by the current emperor to test different people's abilities, to come up with inventions and innovations. And it's just such a cool idea. It's like a gathering of knowledge in a very strict and harsh way, but it's a gathering of knowledge, and it's all about sharing ideas and passion for various different techniques of doing anything and everything, and I love that. So Zomi is a great character too, and I think as the story goes on we start to see her unlock her life a bit and tell us a bit more and let us in. She starts off quite a guarded character and gradually we see her open up, and I also love that about her as a character, that she was able to do that. We do have male characters who are just as exciting. I think Timu is a character and Kuni is a character who both kept me really excited whenever I was reading their plot lines. They are both very powerful people who have a lot of sway in the Empire, and they both end up in some really tricky situations where they have to choose between their families and their loyalty to their country and their loyalty to the generals and people who are on their side. And it's really difficult choices, and I do think that I wouldn't envy their situation at all. I also really enjoyed the professor who took on Zomi as a student. I won't say who it is because I think it's a slight spoiler, but I really enjoyed him as a character, and I think he had some really devastating scenes as well, and there were some moments where I just felt so sorry for him. Oh my gosh, there is so many moments that I just felt sorry for these characters, but also so many moments where I felt like totally enlivened by the book, totally excited by the book. There were some beautiful passages of writing which just really rang true to my heart, and I could not recommend them more highly. And I just think this book as a whole is exceptionally good as a fantasy read. It really is, so I definitely recommend it. Speaking of why I loved it, the plot was awesome. It completely kept me on my toes the whole way through. I never felt like I knew exactly where it was going. I was always just in awe of it when it suddenly took a turn that I wasn't expecting, and this happened a lot. There would be quite a few times where I thought, oh, maybe he's setting up to do this, and he didn't. He did something completely different that I just could not have anticipated, but it was always exciting and brilliant. We get a lot more exploration of the world in this, which I really enjoyed. So we see another continent and we see the people who live there. We also go and see the Wall of Storms itself, which is a great magical kind of entity of storms, and it's just crazy. So that was intense and awesome. and the magic of this world focuses a lot on the beasts and the creatures who live within the world and the magical properties that these characters have. And it's just so good. There is so much to love about this series, and honestly absolutely nothing that I didn't like, which really blew me away. There are some LGBTQ+ themes in this book as well, which was absolutely wonderful to see and felt totally natural to me and totally part of the story, not at all forced. So I loved that as well. And generally, I just can't fault this book. Like, it was perfect and it was everything I wanted it to be. And I don't say books are perfect very often, but for me, this one was. So I don't even know how he's going to top it with book 3. I feel like it's going to be a very difficult thing to do, but I have faith because I love this so much that I just hope book 3 pays off. And the ending of this book, I mean, it is not what I expected it to be, and I am desperate for the next one. So I really need to know what happens next, and I would like the book now, but I guess I'll have to wait till next year when it comes out. I just can't, I can't rave enough about this book. It was so good, and I'm so glad I did a buddy read. Otherwise, I think I would have just had to spew spoilers throughout this whole video because it was just such a good book and I needed to talk about it. I would absolutely love to hear if you guys have read The Grace of Kings or if you've read The Wall of Storms, what you thought of it. Please do let me know in the comments, and please let me know if you're going to go and pick this one up. As I say, it is my favourite book of the year so far, and I did end up giving it a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. So yeah, anything by Ken Liu, I think I'm going to just insta-buy from now on. I've only got his other short story collection, which is Invisible Planets, which I think is an anthology of different stories he's translated, so they're not all written by him. But I'm going to read that soon, hopefully, because, yeah, I loved this so much. And I loved the first one too. I gave that 4.5 stars, so it's just such a solid series. So yeah, do let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.